Hi everyone, I'm Derek. This is There Will Be Cars. On this channel I review new cars, so that means there will be trucks, there will be luxury sedans, there will be SUVs. Above all, there will be cars. And today I'm with the 2019 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport. This is not only a special car because it's a red Corvette, but this also marks the end of an era. This is probably going to be the last C7 Corvette press car that I ever test, because as you know by now, the end of the 7th generation Corvette is already here. The Corvette as we've known it since the early 1950s is no more. It will no longer be a front-engined car. Starting with the C8 generation, it will be a mid-engined high-performance car. I just thought this would be a great opportunity to kind of reflect on a period in automotive history, because you look back over the years and certain brands have shut down, like Scion, Oldsmobile, Plymouth, and certain models within brands that still exist have come to an end. Leading it back to Chevy, I think about the Chevy SS sedan. I really liked that car, but it wasn't really around that long. I reviewed it in a way that told Chevy what I would miss about that car. That's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to show you some of the things that I'll miss about this car. Maybe you can relate to some of them. And if there's anything that I haven't included that you'll miss about the C7 Corvette, be sure to include those things in the comments below this video. The most obvious thing I'll miss about this car is the styling. I mean, just look at it. It's bold, it's brash, it's aggressive. It's low to the ground, and since it's a Grand Sport, it's wider than a regular Stingray. And then when you start it up, it's loud. It's rear-wheel drive, V8 powered. It is the quintessential American performance car. On top of that, it's got a history and it's got a racing pedigree. Some cosmetic and functional add-ons that Chevy put on this car are the Grand Sport Heritage Package, which among other things adds these really cool fender hash marks. This also has the Z07 package on it. Get these really pronounced side skirts, and then this spoiler back here. Of course, I'll miss the Corvette's engine as well. It's not a small downsized V8 or a twin turbo V6 or anything like that. It's still a giant V8, 6.2 liters, naturally aspirated, and it sounds just like you would expect it to sound. Now, it might sound kind of odd, but I'm actually going to kind of miss these tires. And I say that mainly because I tested a car with Michelin PS Cup 2 tires on it, and they were an absolute nightmare on the road. They followed every groove in the pavement, and they were even worse in the wet, which was when I had that car. I came away just really not enjoying that rubber, but on this car, they're fantastic. They stay straight and true. They never deviate from the course that I set them on. And behind these wheels, you'll see the Grand Sport's giant brakes. Those are carbon ceramic brakes. Those are another highlight of this car. Braking in this car is nice and easy. It's progressive. You can feel the pressure building up, and like they got plenty of bite in them. They're progressive, easy to modulate. They're not snatchy or grabby. They're not loud either. They don't squeak or groan. It's really hard to tell based on pedal input and sound and behavior that these are carbon ceramic rotors. I love the fact that Chevy has big knobs for the volume and tuning and the HVAC controls. But I have to admit, even after a week with this car, I still have to get used to the layout of the knobs, because this tuning knob here is so conveniently located that my mind automatically thinks every time that it's the volume knob. So I'll be twisting it and I'll be going through stations and I'll realize a split second later, oh, No wonder the volume's not going up. I'm changing radio stations. I have to constantly remind myself that the volume's up here, the tuning's here. It's kind of an odd split, at least for me, but I do like the fact that they used knobs. There's no buttons or, touchscreen controls. They just kept it old school and functional. I just have to get used to it. Part of what makes the Vette so cool is how low to the ground it is. And of course, as you can imagine, that creates some problems when you're entering certain driveways. You tend to scrape if you're not slow and careful. But Chevy has included something that helps make parking the car a little easier. So if you hit this icon right there, it shows you what the front end is doing. It's got a camera system up there, so it gives you a few different views, and then of course down here you've got the backup camera. That helps make daily driving this car a little easier. The charging options in this car are a bit oddly placed. So if you pop this up, you've got a 12-volt outlet, but there aren't any USB ports around it. But if you press this handy-dandy James Bond button, you have this little hidden storage compartment behind the screen and a USB port. Under the lid of this shallow center storage compartment, you have more charging options. You've got a 12-volt outlet on the left and then a couple of USBs there. It would be nice if they'd found room for a USB out here, but as you can see, the real estate is kind of limited. Of course, it wouldn't be a Corvette without a head-up display. You have a few different output modes. Sorry if that's kind of fuzzy. Just the speed and gear, tack bar up there, G meter, speed, just the tack, and then the more conventional round tack gauge. Definitely comes in handy, especially if you're booking it on the freeway. You don't have to waste a split second looking down at the actual gauges. You can just keep your speed right in your sight line. One thing I'll miss about this Corvette is the targa top. You can kind of have the best of both worlds. You have most of the sound insulation of a fixed roof car. Most. Depending on the road surface, this car can be loud. And then, when the weather's good, you can remove the top and store it under the hatch pretty easily. It's best with two people because the top, even though it's light, it's a little unwieldy. You can still easily remove it yourself and store it back there. It's just a little more convenient when you have another set of hands. Here's another thing I'll miss about this targa top. This particular car has the 3LT trim package, so part of that is a lot of leather and this suede-like microfiber, and on the headliner it's quilted, so it looks really nice. Really enjoy it. And then they wrap the pillars in the suede-like microfiber as well. To remove the targa top, all you have to do is undo these latches above the sun visors, and then undo this latch right here. And the rest is just getting out and lifting. As you can see, it fits perfectly under the rear glass. You've got these sort of hooks that you slide the front holes into, and then you've got these little pegs sticking out of the top that you just slide into these retainers on both sides. And then you just bring the hatch down, soft close, closes on its own, and you're ready for some open air driving. Okay, I'm on the road in the 2019 Corvette Grand Sport with my pal Brian from New Car Spin, and looking for the turnoff to take this on a really winding, twisting road that'll take us to our lunch spot. And right now I've got it in tour mode. I don't know if you can hear that, but it's kind of loud. There's a lot of wind noise, road noise, some some tire roar. Pretty loud in here, even with the targa top in place. But that's the price of doing business in a sports car. I sometimes think cars like this are magnets for people who just want to piss you off because you're in a fast car. At least that's the feeling I get lately, because I've been stuck behind a lot of slow people.
I agree.
Brian knows where I'm coming from.
Welcome to Huston.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Well, hopefully when we get... All right, there we go. And replaced by another. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Well, hopefully when we get to the turnoff we need, it won't be too congested, but we'll see. It's Saturday in Austin, so there's going to be a lot of people dawdling. I'm doing my best here, people. There we go. All right. But as far as touring mode goes, you can feel the play in the steering. It's a little loose, but yeah, nice and comfortable. Ride, I thought would be a little less firm, but then again, this particular car is outfitted with the Z07 package, so there are some tweaks to the suspension, so I'm sure that accounts for some of it. One thing that I've really noticed about this car, it's been a while since I've been in a C7 Corvette, and one thing that I've really noticed about the Corvette by being in this particular one, this coupe, is that it feels like a really large car. Like there's just a lot of car around me. And I think part of that comes from the fact that, yeah, I'm in a coupe, whereas the last one I drove, I think it was a 2015 Stingray convertible. So, you know, I've got this roof over me, I've got the rear hatch and everything. So that definitely adds to the amount of real estate that I'm feeling around me. It does feel like a large car, but it has a big motor to go with it too, so that's nice. Speaking of that, so we're getting out of lunch, we're on a curvy road. I've got the Vette in sport mode, so I can already hear the active exhaust is more vocal. I can definitely feel the weight in the steering. A little heavier, a little firmer, very solid. Kind of feels like a muscle car. So this particular test car has carbon ceramic brakes. These have been great. They haven't been noisy. They've been totally easy to use, no issues. I'm very impressed. One thing I'm gonna miss about this car in particular, aside from the sound and the power and all that, is look at the view out of the windshield. You see those peaked fenders. It's an entire landscape of peaks and valleys. You can definitely tell where the third generation Corvette Stingray DNA is. Every time you look out the windshield, you see the heritage of this car. It's just so exaggerated and bold. I love it. But I've got to say, the ride quality in sport, not bad, not bad. Touring was a little firmer than I thought it would be, but in sport, it's fine. You know, you feel obviously the stiffness, but so far it's not harsh at all. Oh, that was worth the wait.
It's like a slot car.
Yeah, you can feel that tug. One thing I find odd about this car is, as big as it is, because on the outside it looks like a giant Hot Wheels car, especially with the Z07 package on it and the Grand Sport trim and all this kind of stuff. But as big as it looks and as big as it feels, if you look at the mirrors are kind of tiny. They're surprisingly small. I feel like they should be like 20% larger than they are.
You know what they remind me of?
What?
The Ferrari Testarossa.
Oh, I can see that, especially in red.
All the way. That design. Yeah. So when you're behind the wheel or when you're inside, it's like it's hard to imagine you're not in something exotic.
Oh yeah. The view out kind of reminds me of the Viper, you know, because that's got very exaggerated curvaceous bodywork. It instantly makes you feel like you're in something, yeah, more exotic than what is essentially a Chevrolet, or in the case of the Viper, a Dodge. I'll tell you, sounds good. Sounds good. Definitely gonna miss that too.
What kind of fuel economy are you getting in this?
Oh, that's a good question. All right, so back out of here. Info. All right. 19.6. Wow.
19.6. Holy moly.
I need to drive this thing harder.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is, if everything goes according to plan, if the weather cooperates, Brian and I are going to take this to a local track, Harris Hill Raceway in San Marcos, and test out the launch control in this car. Now, I reached out to the media fleet service that handles Chevrolets, and I asked them, well, two questions. Can I go to the track and do some untimed, non-competitive laps just to see what the handling and the steering and the power delivery is like in this car? Or if I can't do that, because I had a feeling, you know, GM would say no, can I just go there and test out the launch control? So I heard back from a Chevy rep, and they said, well, you can't do any performance driving on the track, so you can't do any laps, but feel free to go there and try out the launch control. So, yeah, if everything goes according to plan, that's what we'll be doing tomorrow. Good morning, everyone. I'm out here at Harris Hill Raceway in San Marcos, Texas. I've got the 2019 Corvette Grand Sport. I'm not allowed to take it on the track for any laps, but I did get permission to test out the launch control. Definitely going to do that, and I'm going to show you this car in action. I gotta say, with the first run, I needed to use more throttle and just trust the car more, just give it as much gas as I could, let off the brake, and let the electronics do their job. The second run, used as much throttle as I could and let off the brake, and totally drama-free. I didn't hear the tires chirp, there was no wiggle, there was no drama or anything. It was just a straight line shot. So now that I've done a couple of pulls with the launch control in the Grand Sport, I'm going to walk you through how to actually put it in that mode. It's pretty simple. I've got it in Sport now, and I just turn this knob to track and then press the traction control button once, twice, and then you've got these performance traction modes. So you've got wet, dry, Sport 1, which is what I used on those two launches I did earlier. Sport 2, Race. So let's try Sport 2 for this one. And we'll see if it's a little more dramatic, a little more exciting. Basically, all I have to do now that I have it in launch mode is put my left foot on the brake, make sure nobody else is coming, put it in drive, that always helps, and floor the throttle, get the revs up, and here we go. For this run, I've got it in track mode. Going to put the launch control into its track mode, or race mode, I should say. There you go, active handling off, and not going to use the brake on this one, just going to launch it from a start. lift on that one. It was getting pretty squirrely back there. We did several pulls in the Grand Sport in launch control mode, variety of different settings. I gotta say, the engineering in that is just so spot on and rock solid. Each launch was just drama-free, nice and smooth. All I had to do was just keep my foot down and my hands on the wheel, and the rest was nice and easy. You really have to shut everything off, put it in track mode, track launch mode, and then put your foot down right from the start to get any drama out of this car. I mean, it is just so controlled, so composed. It's very impressive. All right, everyone. So my week with the 2019 Corvette Grand Sport is almost over. I'd just like to say it was a lot of fun being in this car. It goes beyond its looks and its power and its sound. It just so happens that I had this car during the week of 4th of July. Very patriotic time. When I was driving this car around, I knew, people were looking at it because it's big and loud and red. Obviously, it's gonna get people's attention. But there's more to it than just the fact that it's, eye-catching and loud and powerful. It's because I know that this car is Americana. It's like apple pie and baseball and hot dogs, It's built in this country. It's America's sports car. So I came away with this sense that when people looked at it, there was this collective sense of pride, like, oh yeah, that's not just a cool looking car, but it's a Corvette. This is a symbol of the American auto industry. And that was a really cool feeling. We're going into the 8th generation of the Corvette. Granted, it is switching to a mid-engine platform, so, this particular kind of Corvette, the front engine kind that's been around since day one of the Corvette, is no longer going to be produced, but there is more Corvette to come, just in a very different form. I have to say, this 7th generation Corvette, it might not be as exotic as a mid-engine layout that, European automakers tend to use, but it still has a lot going for it. It's visually striking, sounds great, has just a nice, unapologetically old school kind of engine. No turbos, no power adders, just a big V8, big sound, and big power. I'm really gonna miss the C7 Corvette, but I'm definitely looking forward to the C8. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you tune in next time to There Will Be Cars.